So this is a OSC example. This one uses Midi Controller Inputs. Using a library called Pro Midi. So I'm gathering MIDI inputs from a MIDI device, which I'll show you in a minute, and plotting, well, just drawing some basic shapes based on the different MIDI inputs I get. So the different MIDI inputs I'm plotting to is processing Sketch, or when I press a note, when I release a note, when I change the dial on the controller or on the MIDI device, or when I change a setting or program on the MIDI device. So I'll show you, not that I really need to, but this is my MIDI controller, my MIDI device. I'll run the sketch. Okay, so note on, plots random circles or ellipses, note off, note on, note off, note on, note off, note on, note off. You see the change in color in the circles. So note on draws the random circle at any position. Note off increases the brightness. Note on draws it. Notes off increases brightness. Okay. Now for dial change, you see that it's actually just drawing a bunch of transparent ellipses in the same position. So I'm actually, based on the MIDI data I'm receiving, I'm using that value to change the color brightness. So this changes from red to pink. I'll just refresh that. So that draws that does that. Same for these pads. And that's basically what the example does. If I go through the code, so I import the Pro MIDI library, create a new object, MIDI IO, input output, grab the instance from this sketch, and that's how it connects to the MIDI library, and I use the print devices function from the library to print the different devices it imports. Okay, the MIDI.plug function. So what I wrote here, plug all methods to handle MIDI events. So as it says, for example, note on. So this plug function recognizes when a note is pressed on the MIDI device. So whenever this within the quotes is found to be executed, then run the function within this quotes called note on, which I have here. Maybe I didn't explain that correct. So when this MIDI library recognizes different types of inputs from a MIDI device. When it recognizes to be one that is similar to the parameters within a function I created, these are the functions, it will run what's within these quotes. And within these quotes is the name of the function I created. So when you press on the key, it will run this function called note on. So in this function note on, I have a variable called note, and this is from the Pro MIDI library. It recognizes that this is a type called note. So this is how I draw the ellipses. So first of all, I can tell how hard the key is pressed from the note.getVelocity, which is another function in the MIDI library. I can also tell which keys are pressed by using the getPitch function from the library. Now I use these two variables to help assign the values of the fill. So at red, it has a solid red color, and I change the green, blue and alpha colors based on the velocity and pitch. So for example, if I happen to press the key really hard, you get a more, in values you get closer to 255 for the blue color. If I pressed it really soft, you get closer to 0. And I draw the ellipse based on these values again. And for the other examples, I used the exact same method for each one, but I use a range of different functions. So for note off, I use getPitch. For the controller one, that's the dial, I use getNumber and getValue. The getNumber function, this basically says from which of the sliders is the signal coming from. I don't know if you realize that when I move the first slider, nothing happened. I'm not sure why, but it's able to recognize which slider I'm moving, and the get value function determines how low or how high the slider is. And as for the program change one, I'm using the function getNumber. So that's basically this Pro MIDI sketch.